What's up, YouTube? Finally started cleaning up some of the stuff around here. Bikes are all jammed over in the corner. Old transmissions on the ground, along with some of the extra Go Fast goodies I gotta put on there. Not to make it any faster, but got an actual tack with shift light, gas gauge, just a bunch of the swap meet stuff that I've been kind of digging through, getting prepped for this. Now, where we left off on the Falcon, I still got the tarp down. Well, I got the motor in. Got the motor in, got the headers on. Didn't film any of that because it was a pain in the ass. The passenger side went on fairly smooth. The driver's side really kind of sucked. One of these bolts was a huge pain to get in. I think it was these two. When I take these off, I might just open up one of those holes one size bigger. That would have solved plenty of the problems. The only other issue I'm having on this is the headers fit in the engine bay and clear everything like they're supposed to. Not so much down below. This side is kind of pitched. I think the driver's side might be okay, but it's definitely coming at an angle. So if this is the tail housing of the transmission, like this, the header's coming in like this, not quite hitting the trans, but getting pretty close. But I think I have enough room to work around the shift linkage. If I bring you guys under, we can go over that because that's what I'm gonna be working on today. This side, on the other hand, is cocked this way and hitting the trans pan. So not ideal, like the collector section is resting on the transmission pan. I don't think you guys will be able to see that from up here, but the shop's about 5 minutes from here. So I'm gonna be running it open header straight to the shop. And then I'm looking now, I'm probably gonna have to do something about these trans lines that I already have to redo. Got some trans line stuff in the garage. Reroute those around these headers because these are way longer than the shorties. And hopefully I still have room to wrestle a starter in. I didn't think about that either. So the goal for today is under-car work. I'm gonna get the drive shaft in, get the starter in, try and lay out some of the linkages. I do have the shifter still hooked up to the new shifter hooked up to the transmission down below, all of which needs a ton of adjustment. Same thing with the TV cable. I gotta start playing around with those. Throttle linkage brackets and things are all sitting up here. And ideally, again, weather has not been cooperating the last couple days, but we got a break in the weather for now. They're calling for chance of rain around 3. It's 1 o'clock now, or 1:30 or something. So try to get everything done underneath the car. It's boring. I won't have all that much content unless things come up. Because 1, I hate being underneath the car, and 2, it's real hard to film down there. So that's where we're at. We'll update you guys as we progress. Okay, I'm gonna start with the drive shaft just because I left this outside underneath the car. Got a little bit of rain on it, so I'm just taking a Scotch-Brite pad, clean up this housing a little bit. We'll put a little bit of oil on this when we slip it back into the transmission seal. I did not replace the seal on that trans. I know this one was leaking like a sieve. No idea on that one. It hasn't had oil in it for a while, so we're gonna run it. If I gotta swap this out, would be a great idea to do it right now, but I'm impatient. I just need the thing running and driving again because this has been sitting for about a week and I was hoping to only have it sit for a couple days. I got the U-joints over here all taped off, so I'll get this in the car. I'll find the little bolts somewhere in here. Right here, grab my 1/2-inch wrench. Man, so unorganized. And this is where it bites me in the behind. I've been throwing a bunch of stuff in here. I got tools all over the place, so that'll do for now. Maybe I should clean up first. Nope, not enough time. Maybe tonight. All right, I'm gonna jump under, drop the drive shaft in. We'll be back when we're done with that. I got the drive shaft installed. I'll bring you guys underneath the car real quick and take a look at what the issues are on these headers. Oh. So drive shaft's all tightened down. Don't mind the way long sheet metal screws. I gotta replace those when we put the new shifter in. That's all I had when I built this last summer. But here's our header. Here's our trans pan. So we're definitely sticking on there. The collector flange is stuck on the side of the pan. Not ideal at all, but I'm not towing this anywhere, and I really don't feel like cutting and welding it here because I don't have enough power out in the garage right now. So instead, what we are gonna do is drive this to the shop like that, and then we'll take this section down here, cut this off, and tweak that wherever we need to put it. If I gotta lengthen it or do some angle cuts or something. And then the same thing on the driver's side, it's just kind of coming back in. So right now, you're centered underneath the transmission. This is just pitched this way. It looks like I should have enough clearance. It's pretty much hitting the shifter bracket, but I think that should be okay for the 5-minute ride that we're gonna take. So I'm gonna jack up the, do I wanna do the trans lines while we're jacked up here? Let me think about that one. Gotta decide. I got the car jacked up on this side, so maybe I'll just try and finish all the rest of the transmission line stuff while it's here, if I have room to get to it. Then jack up the other side and start messing around with the shifter linkages. That's the plan. It's onto the trans lines. I got one done. It's not the best. It's pretty sloppy and just kind of aimed roughly in the right direction. So we're going short little line section from the transmission out for the feed and the return. Then it goes to a 4-inch little rubber section. And then it'll connect to the hard lines that I have run up to the transcooler and then another rubber bridge. So borrowing the buddy's line tool, well worth every penny. I think I might buy one eventually, but I don't use it that frequently and they allow me to, so maybe I won't. It's a lot of money, but if you're doing this regularly, I would strongly recommend getting one of these. A little bit of a learning curve trying to figure it out, but it's so much better than the little kits and the multi trying to lock everything in and tighten everything down by hand, especially when you're running the steel line. So we'll finish flaring these up. I don't know if I'm gonna record that one. Yeah, we'll do just one. And then get to installing this and figuring out how to bend it and make it fit. I got the tube set in here. This is your depth, basically. So hold this flush, seat the tube, crank down on this thing real tight. We got our bubble flare on now. Snug this one up. Close your valve, pump, loosen. So that makes your bubble. Yeah, could have gone one more pump there. Drop it down enough, pull your fitting out, then we'll put the cone in. Swap that out for your cone. Retighten it. Close your valve. Pump, pump, pump. And there you have it. Line is flared. I'm only doing the one side on this, and then I'm just doing a slight bubble on the other one. So I got the fitting on already. There you have it. Nice bubble flare. So this is the one that goes into the transmission. This, I'm just gonna do the same thing. Put a little flare on here. I'm not going full compression fitting because I want to be able to get the hose over it. So we'll just flare the edge of this, and then I got to figure out how this is all going to bend. So I did a quick, this is all going to get redone. I'm going to go over to my buddy's shop, and he's going to give me a hand routing these a lot nicer because he's much better at bending and flaring all these, but this will work for now. You can barely get in here, but if you look through, all I did was put a little 90 on each side and then angle it up towards the gap in the firewall, which will be just fine. I'll show you guys that on top when we go to hook all these up too. Super good way to slap this together. Here is the transcooler. So I got little bits of rubber line to hard lines that just kind of dangle through wherever I made them fit. Then they snake down and back to here. So I'll do a little tie in here and here. Keep these kind of in sync, and then I got to connect to the new hoses that we just made. Not pretty, but it will work. So that's all we're going for right now, is just get this thing fired up and driving again. And then I'll save the cleanup for maybe winter or a rainy day. But it's summertime, and I want to rip this thing around. Now we're gonna drop back underneath the car. I'm gonna throw the starter in. Again, 2 bolts on the starter. If you watch the teardown video, I showed you how to take it out. We're doing the opposite, putting it right back in. So let me jump back underneath there, and I think that's about it on the passenger side. The trans lines, I just gotta hook up the rubber connections and hose clamps for that little bit. I am going to be running trans line. Do not just use regular rubber fuel line or anything. That will cause problems. But high pressure trans line will go back on there to bridge that. And then we're on to the shifter side. So we got to set the TV cable stuff, make the mount for that, try and make sure we can adjust the shifter itself. And maybe I'll just swap the cable off of the bracket I have underneath the car instead of dropping the new shifter in, because I don't think all the holes are the same. So I think I'll just try and use the shifter that's currently in the car, but at least adjust the bracket to make all that work just for time's sake. And then we'll go through and put the nice one in later. That's the plan. Starter first. Well, I got the starter in, and now I really regret not putting that starter in first before I put the motor back in. That was a pain. Obviously, when you're looking down from the top, the headers are pretty much completely in front of the starter. Now, on the old setup, I had plenty of room in the back here because it was just shorties and they dropped and then the exhaust went down out this way. Now, we got a lot of stuff real close to those headers. And my wire for the starter, the battery ground, or not ground, but the battery positive, came back this way and dropped around and went to the starter. I don't have room for that, so now I gotta start cutting all of this. And it looks like we might be rewiring or tweaking some stuff. So I don't have any room on the back side anymore, but I got tons of room up here. So what I'm gonna do is disconnect this, take off all this loom crap, because I don't like it, and it's broken, and it's gross, and covered in fluids and oil. And I'm getting dirty just touching it. And I will run it straight down this way, and then we'll go probably on the oil pan side down around the lower section of the motor mount, and then to the starter solenoid dealio. That'll be fun. Time to start on chopping up some of this wiring. I did not do a very good job when I slapped all this together. I'm doing the mix and match of what was good when I got it and what wasn't. But luckily on the starter circuit, it's pretty basic. I have trigger wire and a hot lead from the battery, like so. And then we're gonna get rid of all of this loom crap because I don't care enough. 1, 2, if I want to do this, I'm not going to use this wiring loom. I'm going to use something better. Like what we did on the iron head, that flexi stuff. Chinese finger trap material. I think it works a lot better. This is just ugly and brittle and gets in the way. So, come on. Really? Electrical tape is stronger than me, apparently. Now we're free and clean. I can see the wires now. I will add a little bit of tape on this. I don't remember. Yeah, okay. So basically I'm gonna run these two down. This is the trigger wire that goes onto the starter. That's the hot lead. So I'm gonna run these first down underneath these motor mounts. I'll just show you, and then I don't have the big tripod, so you guys are kind of stuck. But I'm gonna fish these underneath, get these connected onto the starter solenoid, and then route these up this way, and then up to here. So we'll be back when I'm done. Well, that was a pain in the ass. Headers suck. I know it's gonna make a difference and make things better. However, trying to get everything to fit is terrible. A starter job used to be a 5-minute affair. Now we're looking at quite a bit, a series of extensions and tightening it from all the way over here. But I got the red lead, so the hot side of the battery is hooked up, tightened down. So glad I bought these little shorty wrenches last year. Really came in handy on that one. And then we got the trigger wire hooked up. So these are just individual independent wires right now. I'll go through and like climb back underneath there, zip tie some together. I don't need it loomed, but I at least want these so they're not dangling and bouncing around all over the place. And we got a heavy gauge wire with good thick insulation coming up this way. I'll probably build a little bracket right off of the block down here, use this bolt hole. So that'll kind of live there. And this will come up to the battery. And then from the battery, hot side on the battery, and it'll jump over to the actual relay we have up here. I'm gonna swap out the battery for you guys. I tweaked my back somehow today, so it hurts getting up and down from the car. I think I'm gonna finalize the left side first. I'm avoiding the shifter cable and the shifter stuff because it's gonna be tedious and a lot of back and forth, which we'll see how far I can get. But I think if I keep jamming on this side, I'll get these trans lines connected, drop the car off the jack on this side, get the trans lines connected. That'll pretty much lock down everything on this side, and then maybe play around with some of the wires. Get some of this laid back out. Oh, I got the plugs I need for the heads. I forgot to bring them home. So I can't really do the alternator stuff, but I think I'll get the hard starter stuff done and get everything locked down on that circuit. Maybe wire up everything for the everything minus the alternator connection. This one up top, and then we'll save all the fun driver side shifter TV cable stuff for tomorrow. All right, that's the plan. So I kind of pulled an audible there. I didn't hook the trans lines up yet, but what I did do was throw the valve covers back on. I was working around and there's crap falling from the pine tree right there. So we yanked the, what did I do here? I reused the blue gaskets, the reusable ones, so one piece, no cork, no nothing. One piece gaskets, re-snugged down the valve covers, topped it off with oil, so I don't forget, just preemptively filling. Put the breathers back in. I didn't put the dipstick tube or anything in yet. That's gonna get a bunch of silicone before I finalize that. And then I threw in the temp sensor and hooked up the crappy plastic oil pressure line that will be replaced at some point with some of the brass stuff. I have the kit somewhere over there. Should do it now, but that's fine. Hooked up the fuel line, so got the negative just sitting on the battery. The battery's in, even though it's not hooked up. Everything's run here, just some zip ties here and there to kind of finalize that. I think what I'm gonna do is finalize the, and then coolant and heater core hoses are roughly set. Nothing's perfect or finalized or fully torqued. I think that's how I had them. I don't remember exactly how that was laid out. Any Ford guys out there want to tell me if I have that somewhat routed right, let me know. If not, I'll change them. That's why they're all loose. It's a pre-fire once we get into the radiator. But I am going to hook up the transmission lines right now. Make sure they're clear in the headers. If I got to get more of the little clamps, these doodads. I got a whole box of these at the shop, so I'll run those back. But basically, bridge the trans lines from there to there, and from the same thing on the bottom from there to there. And like I said, the main goal is to eventually go back and do those nicely and keep it pretty much one single hard line all the way up to the front here. I just don't know yet. And then I gotta figure out the fan configuration. I think I had it set up as a puller fan. Maybe I'll set it up as a pusher fan and put it on the outside and then leave the trans cooler on the back side of the radiator. I haven't decided. Most likely trans cooler's going right up front again, exactly like it is. It'll sit that way for a little while, but I do have the grill for this car and I've never put it on, ever. So it's got some tabs and some tweaking and bending that I gotta do, but the oil cooler has pretty much stopped me from doing that because I routed it that way, and that was very thrown together just to get it running and driving to the shop. We're gonna do the same thing one more time until I can get the exhaust finalized, and then I'll go over and have my buddy help me string that up for the trans lines. But has fuel line hooked up, oil filled, re-torqued the harmonic balancer bolt. I'm just trying to go over little variables. if there's anything else I missed. But that should pretty much button up everything on the top sides. And then we're saving all of the driver's side, so the shifter linkage, the TV valve, everything underneath the car on that side will be on pause because my back is killing me. I don't know what I did. I bent over to pet the dogs, stood up, and then I've been fighting shearing pain every single time I move. I'm good if I'm up and working, or I'm good if I'm bent over. It's just that in between up and down thing. It's never would have happened in my 20s. Man, only gonna get better, I assume. All right, let's do these trans lines. This length that I just put the hose on is brand new. This one down here is my old one. That'll actually reach. So rather than reinvent the wheel, I'm gonna flip-flop. This will go on the other line now. That'll bridge to this one that's too short, and this one will connect to that. Trans lines are all hooked up. So basically metal line here, you got a 4-inch bridge there, and probably like an 8-inch bridge. I could have shortened this top one, but like I said, I know I'm gonna be redoing it. I just wanted to, so I zip tied them up to the heater hoses, which not ideal. You usually don't want trans lines anywhere near warmer sources. However, that's the quickest way to do this to get it to the shop and guarantee that I will stay off of this rear header area. So I kept some distance there. Zip tied a bunch of things, finished up the battery wires down to the starter, since we now need to go below. So the trans cooler's hooked up, minus the mounting on the radiator. Fuel line's good. Now we're down to TV cable and shifter bracket on this side, which I know is going to get really tight down there. I don't know if that's going to show up in camera, but it's right between the headers there. That's going to get pretty crowded pretty quick around the header. So maybe I should have done that first. Oh well. We'll deal with that. That's tomorrow's goal, is to finish up the outside of this and get this all finalized so we can try and fire it up. Ideally, fingers crossed, the plan is to fire this thing up tomorrow. That's the plan for tomorrow. We'll get the shifter stuff sorted. I gotta pour trans fluid in, a lot of it, because that trans is pretty dry, but fluids, we're just gonna fill the radiator with water. We're not doing anything crazy on that. And distributor, spark plug wires, spark plugs. Final stuff, final detail things. I don't know about driving it tomorrow, but technically we could. Brakes are all good. Nothing changed there. Rear end's good. Drive shaft's in. Well, let's be honest. If we get it fired up, we're most likely going to putz it at least around the block tomorrow. It is open headers. I got to run to the shop and grab those plug inserts for the heads, and then we can button up the alternator and stuff. But the big thing tomorrow underneath the car on the driver's side is just going to be that TV cable and shifter cable. I'm ranting. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. Whatever you guys can do helps me try and make a little bit of cash off of this stuff. Costs you nothing to subscribe. Costs you absolutely nothing to not pay attention to anything I do or call me an idiot on the internet either. So that works. We'll be back tomorrow.